Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Just wanted to spend a couple minutes here introducing some stuff for the next project. I will be also doing a stream for Class 26, and I'll go over this and share some of this stuff again. But I wanted to, ahead of time, just get a separate video set up and get that up on our site so that those of you that are working ahead a little bit or doing a little bit of research can get a good sense of what's going on. So at this point, we're moving into our last project for the semester, and it's been modified a little bit to make it more manageable in the time frame that we have here at the end of the semester. So rather than being a big full project with a couple of warm-up assignments first, this time we're just going to jump right into the project, and the project will be sort of flexible based on the amount of work you're able to produce in the last couple of weeks. So the guidelines are relatively loose in terms of what the deliverable will be. So the project is subtitled Branding in Motion, and our goal will really be to create branding and ident bumpers with motion graphics. As I was saying in a previous class session, we've mostly been this semester focusing on things like graphics for animation or typography in motion and things like that. And for branding and ident bumpers, a lot of times what we're doing is taking those elements like graphics and typography and animating them. The interesting thing about it to me, though, is that a logo will already have a sort of personality to it that includes graphics and typography in most cases. That personality of the brand or of their logo, of their mark, is really what we're going to start with and then build our motion design around that. As we've read and explored a little bit this semester, when we work with motion graphics, we can combine lots of different kinds of media together. And although we haven't done that all that much this semester, when we think about branding and bumpers and things like that, they're kind of on the edge of what would be advertising or commercials or television sort of applications. So a standard television commercial would be a good example of this, where motion graphics are combining or composite of moving images, graphic elements, audio, music, music videos. Essentially, a commercial or a music video is what we read about in the Manovich essays called hybrid visual language, where we're sort of putting together these different kinds of media and they become one thing, and it's sort of a hybrid of all of those elements. So more specifically, though, for branding and ident bumpers, we usually would include those at the beginning or end of a commercial, in social media now, on websites, and it has even more applications that extend beyond television commercials. And so for the motion designer, what we would be doing when we're making branding in motion or ident bumpers is we would be creating a package of assets for a company or for an advertising firm or whatever to add on to or overlay or incorporate into some of the other media. Another example, I guess, of a logo bumper that I didn't really kind of include in this would be like the bug. If you've watched cable television or anything like that, and it's actually often on YouTube nowadays too, you'll see the little brand or the logo down in the corner, right? And sometimes that's even animated. Those are called bugs, and they're a way of getting the branding more into or integrated into the content. And so again, that would fall right along the lines with the sort of thing that we're looking at. Branding in motion is extremely common today. It's a thing that's kind of been increasing over time based on our increasing viewership for time-based media. If you think back to before television, right, we might have only had things in print, in which case they didn't move, right? Or in radio, we can't really hear it, but there maybe was a song, a jingle, right? So I think branding and item pumpers are along those same lines as a jingle, where they're trying to sort of create the personality for that brand or for that company, but do it in a dynamic way. It's common for motion designers to get hired to do work like this, and to bring brand identities to life, or to update them. I think a really classic example of this in a web-based environment would be Google, and how they update their Google Doodle, which is their little branding mark, every couple of weeks, or every month. They even have separate web pages where it's just a backlog or an archive of all of their little Google Doodles, which are the animated versions of their branding. So for our final project, we're going to use it as an opportunity to create or to select an existing brand, and potentially, if you had something in mind, an invented brand, or if you had already built a logo or something like that, and to collect visual resources related to that brand identity or that brand style, then to make some style frames and design boards for how you might animate that, and then to go to the next step and create some motion tests. I would imagine that with the amount of time that we have for this last project, we'll more or less be in this motion test stage. And we're not sort of like working towards like a big, giant finished thing like we did in our explainer project. We're more interested in this case in making really short animations, but making a lot of them. And most of them might be similar, but just different versions or a little bit different timing, or perhaps it comes in a different direction or something along those lines. So we want to just, in a sense, create a bunch of motion tests and then package those into a series of little motion tests. And what we would call that is like a pitch deck. If I were working for a company and they asked me to do some motion design for their brand identity, I might do this kind of work, put all of them together, and then present that to the client. And have them watch with me. We will talk about what's going on. I would tell them like which ones I think are working, or highlight certain aspects of those. But then it would be up to them through viewing all of those examples in the pitch deck to be able to sort of narrow it down. And then I would go back for another round of revisions and I would build it out a little bit more. So another example of where we might do something like something like this, or how we would use it is creating like a branding show reel. Let's say that I'm working for a certain company for several years. I might have made a bunch of examples of their logo in animation, and then I would just put all of those together, and maybe I would put that reel on my YouTube channel or on my Vimeo channel. In which case, then I'm sort of highlighting this work that I did for a specific client, and I'm showing some of the examples, but also a little bit of the variety and that kind of thing. So that's more or less what we're going for the project, is to just create a bunch of animated logos for one specific company, and then package those together as if we were going to be trying to pitch or sell the work that we were doing. As far as the process and the kind of general steps for your project, it will need to include a selection of brand to explore through motion design, and particularly it would either be a company or a logo or something like that to start with. You'll need to explore the branding and the branding content of that company that already exists in any kind of animated, typographic, graphic illustration, design, video, audio elements. More or less do some visual research about what that company has already generated or what they're already using, and that will give you a sense of what their style is or what their personality for the brand might be. And then those are really good ways to start thinking about how you want to animate it and how you want to make things move. From there, you'll need to create some style frames, and essentially our design boards probably for this exercise will be made up of a couple of different style frames for different versions of the logo animation. We'll present those animated versions of the brand identity through motion tests, and our work should match the source branding style or aesthetic. Our presentation format will be like a compilation of several different motion tests into one deck. And we'll be working, as always, to create a well-developed relationship between audio and visual elements. The visual elements should work together well, and then we should likely have audio also included in the project. Basic requirements, this will be variable duration. It just depends. A logo bumper could run anywhere from 2 to 15 seconds, depending on what it is. I think the biggest comparison there would be like, let's say the Universal Studios rotating globe at the beginning of a film. That would be a logo bumper or animated branding, motion branding. That compared to, let's say, the little logo of Sprint popping up on the screen at the end of the commercial. Right, that takes 1 or 2 seconds, and the Universal Studios one goes for quite a while, where they're sort of building the anticipation. So our actual little motion tests will be relatively variable in duration, but we'll put a bunch of those together, and our final deck will be about 30 seconds or so. In general, you need about 3 or more short logo ident bumpers. And your sequences should explore the brand aesthetic and style and motion, and then file submission and everything else will be pretty standard based on what we've done in the past. As far as dates and deadlines or the timeline for the project, this is the week that you should start doing some preliminary work or some visual research. This is where we're introducing the project, and I'll play some examples in this video for you from past student work. And then later this week and next week, we'll include some work session demonstrations, and hopefully by next week, when I'm able to meet with some of you individually or all of you individually, I'll be able to give you a little bit of in-progress critique or in-progress feedback based on what you have. So when we do those meetings, I'll be giving you the sign-up format shortly on next class. Then one of the things that I'll probably ask you to do is share your screen to me so I can see what you've been working on, and you don't have to worry about uploading, and I don't have to grab everything. We can just do it a little bit more on the fly or more flexible. Week 15 is our last week of classes, and so what we'll be shooting for is to have everything in by the end of what would normally be our last class session, which would be the Thursday night of the last week of official classes. And as far as our scheduled final goes, as you know, we're not going to be having a face-to-face final, but perhaps what I will do is make a package up all of your guys's things, and I'll present those in my stream, live stream those as a package, and we can screen them together on the day of our normal final. We're not going to do it at 7:45 in the morning, though. So there will be details about that to come, but just keep in mind that if you count this week, we have about 2.5, almost 3 weeks total to work on the project. I included in Class 25, the Class 25 page, a number of professional examples. I'm not going to play those right now, but I would encourage you to watch these to get some good examples of what professional work related to branding and motion looks like. And I think what I'll do next is play some examples of past student work. So I'm going to mute my mic, but then we'll be able to hear these.
To ensure the safe performance of all authorized activities, do not destroy vital testing apparatus.
Who's there? Are you still The Collectors, the Reapers, they aren't a threat to us. They're a threat to everything, everyone. Those are the lives we're fighting for. That's the scale.
Frank? OLT. A crummy commercial? Son of a bitch.
Okay, so we're through the screening. That last one I threw in as one that I was working on last fall, and just to kind of I guess introduce something that you can think about when we're working on your bumpers is that especially when a bumper is short, like in this case, it's only a couple of seconds long. One of the things that we would do in terms of putting this together into our pitch deck would be that we would just put it in a couple of times so that we don't just watch it play through once. We just see it repeat a few different times, and then we can talk about, again, what's going on and how everything is working when we're pitching. So those are, I guess, some examples. One I made, and the rest were all students, student work from previous semesters, and I think that's all I wanted to do for this video. I'll wrap it up here. I think what I'm going to work on for my examples is either this little MAGD logo thing that I was working on, or else the one that I was working on for the expo, which is coming up later. So you'll probably get sick of seeing this, guys, but that's what I'm going to be messing around with. Look forward to talking to you guys soon and seeing what you have for ideas. Let's do some branding in motion. Yeah.